Till now we discussed Golus, the Indian of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the way it's Mamorim Chassidus. As the Golus Mitzrayim is the Mitzrayim, which means that the Meichin is not made in the Midas. It says, even if I have Midas, but the Midas are not al pi Meichin, and the reason for it is because there's the Mitzrayim. Melachatchil is as weggestellt because between Yesh and Yesh there has to be a Ayin be'emtza. But what happens is that Mitzrayim or Klippe takes advantage of this space of the Ayin memela vert a hefsek. And that's the Mitzrayim, the way it's in Klippe, the way it's in Parei, Yetzias ha'erev, or like he says that the Goren is begematire with the Kelul Choron, which is Klippe, Charenaf, Akoponim. As a result of this hefsek, so it becomes a hefsek between knowing the truth and having a hergish. So the Revaile, the past few shurim what we were discussing is what's the reason for this hefsek? Why does it have to be that way? And bipratius, what's the chisaron of not having midas? Last time we finished off that tonight we're going to discuss what's the solution. So even though now Maimer doesn't discuss it, we're going to see from other places. But before we get there were two questions that came in. I got phone calls, which we should address before we get there. So there's two separate inyanim, one more shorter inyan, and then we're going to get to what's the Eitze, the Derech and Aveda to deal with Mitzrayim. So the first question was a Pashtazach. Someone asked, as Meret, that Mitzrayim is the Golus Kloli, or the Klippe Klolis, and that's the reason for all the other Golis. And that's why it says that all the Yidden were in Mitzrayim, because every issue in Aveda really comes from the issue of Mitzrayim. We're just coming now from Purim, from Shabbos Zocher. In the Mamorim read that Amalek is the reason for all of Klippe. Like it says, the Reish is Geim Amalek. Like we always say, the Amalek is the Chutzpah, or the Hisnasos, and the Makif of Klippe, and therefore that's going to be the Sibbe for all of Klippe. That's why it's not counted in one of the Shiva Amamin or one of the 7 Midas. So some Klotz Kasha is Mitzrayim the Sibba for Klippe, or is Amalek the reason? So the emes is that the question has to go even breiter. Sedoine Cholzu as Meret wegen Midyon, and over there he says that Midyon is not one of the Shiva Amamin. And there's a special kind of milchama in Midyan, because Midyan is the sibba for all of Klippe. So, the Revaile we have 3. It says the Amalek, says the Midyan, and says the Mitzrayim. So, obviously in every place we're talking about a different prat and another in. So first the chiluk zwischen Midyan and Amalek, bekitzer. Amalek is called the Makif of Klippe. Kilo Neymar, it's al derech sedo an mensch, sedo the etzem hanefesh, al derech ze is do, there's the etzem of Klippe. Midyon is not the etzem hanefesh. Midyon is what we call the hargoshes hayesh. It's the nekuda pnimis of the keichs haglui. It's like, I have chesed and I have gvura, and then there is the hargosha of I, Shebe Chesed or Shebe Gvur. So it's the Hargoshes Hayesh, which is an expression of the Etzem, but it's not the Etzem itself. If we would be Mechalik, we would say, as Vazet Taich Midyon is Ich bin Faran, Ich bin, which is always the Sibur for Machlekes. It's his Spashtus. That's the way he describes it in Echolzu. Amalek is not the Spashtus of the Nefesh, it's the Etzem HaNefesh Alein. C'est der Ich, c'est der Achutz Ba'anata. Es ist nicht ich bin, es ist ich. And therefore, we won't get involved now. The taka, the efane hamelchama, the way we deal with Amalek and the way we deal with Midian are taka different, because one is the spashtus of the etzem, one is the etzem itself of Kli. Mitzrayim is none of the above. Mitzrayim is much lower. Mitzrayim is kilo neymar, a technical reason why there is no gili. Es ist nicht in Etzem, es ist nicht gili von Etzem. Es ist Poshet. Between Mechin and Midas, there's a Meitzar. So it's that he's not allowing for gili. Komteis, as Mitzrayim is in a way much easier to deal with. Benegeya Midyan and Amalek, Retmen Dorten, as Medaf gehen Mesiris Nefesh, or Medaf gehen, there's different Ifanim, how we have to do Kabbalah Sel, because it's an atzmistic issue, so the solution is an etzem. In Mitzrayim, it's a Mitzrayim Agar, Ezot Leia Daiti Esavai. So the Eitz is going to have to be as V'yedu Mitzrayim Kene Avai, V'yada Meloschen zu brechen, durchbrechen, mit auf durchsparen, somehow we have to penetrate this Mitzrayim Agar. So it's still going to be a Aveda within the Gdorim of his Bonanus, of the regular Seder Aveda in Seichel and Midas. In other words, let's put it differently. In a way, the Melchama in Amalek and Midian is more of an atzmistic Melchama, but in a way it's easier. The Melchama in Midian and Amalek, while the problem is in Etzem, so good, darf ich megala sein mein Etzem, which may be it's a Aveda, but it's once it comes out, einmal Aid stellt sich weg, and he faces the Ruach Shtus with a takif, so he'll win. Mitzrayim Agorin is kilo neymar that it's infiltrated into the Keich Segluim, into the system of the person. Is that Amos is jeder Mechin. Und the Mensch geht, lernt Chassidus. It's not, and he's not and within these Gedorim, there could also be issues. So we're going to have to slowly but surely within this system find a solution. A way to durchbrechen the Meitzah zwischen the Mechin and the Mitzvah. So obviously, yesh bazeh masha'im bazeh, and what we're going to focus on later today is the Eitzah for dealing specifically with the Meitzah Agar. Okay. That was a kurz and a kud. Another, maybe more of a breiter issue, which somebody asked, and the emes is, this is mamish the place for it. But it's a klalistic question. We've been discussing the whole time the difference between Mechin and Midas, like what it says in the Nun Hey, calls them that they are two distinct Muhusen, and the way the Rebbe is Mesif, that they're Hofchim. So, in the discussion, Be'etzem, L'chere we were Seiser ourselves. And this was the question. Mitzad Echad sagt man, as Mechin is Bittel, and Midas is Yeshes. Why? Because Mechin connects to something outside of me, to a truth. Mashenki and Midas is just Haragashas Atzmi, it's the way I experience myself. Leidach, sagt man, Mechin is La'atzmi and Midas is La'azulas. So the Tnuah of Midas is, as is done noch in Mechin is Kilu, that I am sinking deeper into myself. I'm retreating, I'm connecting to my own etzem. So which one is it? Which one is more me? Mechin or Midas? Or besignen acher? Which one is more the etzem? The emes is the question could be asked even more simple. Just if we focus on this idea that Mechin is la'atzme and Midas is la'azulas. So the way it's usually described in the Mamorim, over here in Nun Hey, it's very bekitzer, but in other places it's more barchave. As Midas, you need other people. You can't have a Ave if you don't have a Ov. And that was the frustration of Avraham Avinu, that he was sitting outside his tent looking for somebody to be mischased with. Mashenkin meichin verkehrt. The derech of the Chachamim is to be misbedet, sich abtragen von der Zulas, von der Zwive. He doesn't need anyone. And it's like the teva of seichel, like you see in Yetzias, that a person who's the teva of an extrovert, a person which is more of a social person, he's constantly looking around. He's connecting with his sviv. Masha'enkein, sichli, is fakert. He's more withdrawn. He's into himself. And even within ourselves, we see that. When I'm in a midas mode, so if I'm looking to love, or to experience, or to get excited, or to get angry and hate, or any kind of midah, I'm connecting with the sviv. Mashenkin, when I want to think, the teva is that a person closes his eyes and withdraws to be able to ibetrachten azach. So, l'chure, this is the question. What heißt das Meichen doesn't need anything? Meichen doesn't need. It doesn't need other people, but it needs things to learn. A scientist could study without having something to study. A Landen can etwas lernen, aber hat nicht a Gemara. Not the Sefer. He doesn't have a kasha. He doesn't have an issue that he's dealing with. What's the case? What's the fall which avdem zane midnan? So l'chura, I do have a shaykhis to Azulas. I'm just not thinking about a person. I'm thinking about an inyan. I'm thinking about Yetzias. Is l'chura. Fragt man, what's the touch that we're saying that Meichin doesn't need any Zulas? Meichin does need the Zulas. Is l'sikum, we have over here two questions, which is really just two sides of the same debate. One is, what's Meichin? Is Meichin more la'atzmei, or is Meichin more bittel, which is l'chura connecting to Azulas? And zweitens, what's the type that we're saying that Meichin is la'atzmei? L'chura, it's not true. You do need Azulas. Now what's interesting is that in our Maimer in Tafresh Nun Hey, these two inyanim are said like Bechada Machte. Lassen wir noch lernen in der wenig, darf ein Beis. Sagt das so. Meichen und Mides im Beis Mohusim Rechekim ze mise. Der Meichen im Beginn ist Bittel und Dveikus Davke, beheder Argoshes Ayeshes. Und Mides im Beginn ist Hergish Ayeshes Davke. So Meichen is connecting to something else, Dveikus, and Mides is not. He's Margish himself. Veha Meichin Ikram La'atzmei Davke, Veha Mides Ikram Zulase. So he's saying it, Mamish is one thing, and then Metayt Shtois in the Muskel. When he says Meichin is Ikram La'atzmei, sagt O Ba'avedu B'chinas HaDveikus Va'achtus. So what's the touch that is La'atzmei? It's Dveikus. So what's the touch? Dveikus to what? The pastors were touching Dveikus is that I'm David the Inyan. So we're going around in circles over here. Is Meichin to myself, or Meichin is that I'm David to something? And it's in Erdkugel over here. How's this working out? So the emes is, it's a very sadistic question, it's a breiter question, which needs to be dealt with much more barachava, way beyond the mizgeres of this discussion. So just the nekudas abir. There's a sikha in Chelek Lamed Tes. It's the first sikha in the Geras HaTshuva, and the second set of sikhas in Ha'ara 18. The Rebbe Mamish addresses this question. And the answer is that it says over the L'chura, Seichel is also dealing with the Zulas. So the answer is that it's B'havdol. It's true that I have a shaykh to the Zulas, but the Eifan HaShaykh is B'havdol. So lassen wir das ein bisschen besser voneinander kleiden. The way Midas works is that I connect to something. And this Dover Hazulas became part of my life. This friend, or this thing that I love, became part of me. Masha'en Kein Seichel, I didn't connect to him. I know about him. I study him. But the teva of Seichel is, the way you study it has to be an eifin that I detached, removed. That's attached real limit. If I'm going to be involved, then it's going to be a disturbance to the limit. So learning has to mean that ich bin abgetragen von der Sache und ich lerne das mit der Zeit. I'm objective. Therefore, the Pashtan of Gemini, Midas are always going to look to connect to things which are similar to me, which are my world. I'm going to become a friend with somebody who's like me. Or I call upon him somebody who's a person, a medaber. You could, it says in Chassidus, that you could have Rachmanas Usam Balechaim have a hergish, but obviously it's less. And if we're talking about Tzemeach or Demim, so weiter and weiter. Because hergish means connection, and this thing became part of my world. So I have a yachas to the Zulas. This yachas could only be built as much as possible for me to have that relationship. Meichin is not like that. It's not true to say that it's easier or better or more seicheldik to study humans than to study animals, or to study plants, or to study demim. I have a person who's a cheiker and chachmas atchune, and I learned how the galgalim work because he has a shaykhis to it. It's nothing to do with having a shaykhis. The way limud works is that I alachatchila don't have a shaykhis to him. So I'm b'havdol. So even though l'cheira, what's happening over here is that I'm allowing for this thing to enter my life, I'm discussing episode sugya, I'm not really connecting to it. I don't have a shaykhis to that thing. It's an eifin of avdal. Umamel. Let's say a poshten afgeminne. If somebody comes and tells you that you were studying a certain fall, but the fall is kemlish given, you are learning what's going to be fair, what's going to be right, what's going to be the din of a mitzvah, of a rayas, of a chazokis, of a reiv, of the ganze londes, and you just know that the fall never happened. It is wenig seichel. Is the muskel now not true? The muskel is doch gar nicht geboit. I was learning this thing, but I was bichlal never cared about it. That was a chetimtza for me to think. Nochmer, if you're going to come and tell me that the ganze cheshbein is how the galgalim work, you should just know that it's nicht emes. This whole the facts in the chachmas atchun that this galgal hashmini is over here, and where is the shemesh and where's the yireach, and this thing, the Yetzias are not different. So now all my cheshbenas are not true. The cheshbenas are still true. They're just not applicable to factor. But the seichel shebezeh is still true. Maybe useless, but it's still seichel. Because the seichel was never totally on the Yetzias. It's not about the Yetzias. I never really connected to that thing. Masha'enkin, if someone comes and tells you, you should know that this chaver that you love and you care for, v'chulu, is kemlish given. It's all a dim. Then I have a real problem. Because Ave is the taich that there's a ov. I connected to something. I'm connecting to not a thing. In other words, seichel is the taich that it's all happening within me. There's no real zulas over here. And midas is the taich that I am taki connecting ave yachas to azulas. Lass mal gehen Trott weiter, maybe ein bisschen tiefer. Ich kann auf dem Gufe fragen. So, okay, so I'm not connecting to the demon, to the thing that I'm learning. But l'chura I'm connecting to the muskel, to the svara. The svara is the cheichtazach. It's a truth. I'm not. If I'm learning that 2 apples and 2 apples equals 4, you're telling me I'm not connecting to the apples. Okay, but I'm connecting to 2 plus 2 equals 4. Is l'chure is tzirig hab ich doch a shayches mit a svara. I'm not connecting to the people, to the balidin, but to the word of a mitzvah mechvel. This gedank I do have a shayches to. Is l'chure hadrukush leduchte. I do have a yachas to zulas. Is the Nukudas Abiur, there's a Maimer, Elab Kudi Tovshin Lamed, which grade the Rebbe's Mitzrayim to our Maimer, to Tovshin Nun Hey over there. So it's Mamish, it's unsere Sugi, it's not that Mimerchak Yavi Lachme, it's Mamish unsere. Over there the Rebbe says that Bechlal, the way Seichel works is an Eifen of Eir. What's a Taj? So over there the Rebbe is talking about the Yachas of Seichel to Midas, or the Yachas of a Rav to a Talmud, that the way the Gili of Seichel works is not a taich as I have a svara, a package, which I'm delivering to you. Just like when a Rav teaches a Talmud, it's not a taich as I give you a Seichel. A kop kann nicht a Rufstell. You can't make a person think. What I could do is, ich kann balaych. The Rav makes you think. In other words, it's an eifin of b'derech memele. What's the touch of b'derech memele? I don't have a thing that I'm giving you. There's no such thing as a svara. By mere leicht seichel in kop, and I could help you understand it by making it as so leichten badir in kop. But it's not. I am giving a shiur. I'm giving you a kasha and a teret. Those are just tools. Those are tools to make you think. That's not the seichel. The seichel is the eir. The seichel is the derher, the gedanken kop, the lichtigkeit in kop. That it's a leicht. Al derech ze is the yachas of seichel to midas. Mechin is not giving midas information. Says valse richtig is bederech memele is a leicht arein in midas. Lule that there would be our issue of Mitzrayim Agorim, then it would be bederech memele. Al derech ze, darf man sagen, is the same way in the yachas of a seichel to a muskel. As a few years ago, the Rabbi wrote about it in Mibeis Chayenu Chelik Dalet. So over there, the Rabbi took this word of that seichel's yachas to Talmud and to Midas is an even of air, like the Rebbe says in Edel Pekude, and he said, a trot weiter. That's going to be the same yachas of seichel to a muskel. Was heißt? Is l'chore darf man das abteitschen as when I understand a muskel, it's not the taich that I have a thing over you. Let's touch it differently. There's a Yetzias. The Yetzias is this daemon that I'm studying. This scientist is learning about their Yetzias. Says do ich. Was hab ich? Ich hab Lichtigkeit im Kopf. That means that there's gili eir ha-nefesh in a even of seichel, that the keich ha-maskel leicht, and that's what we call lahatzmei. That's happening by me in nefesh. It's the way I am dovuk. It's the closest place in keich segluim where how I could be to my etzam ha-nefesh. I am within myself and the nefesh leicht. When this part of nefesh meets a metzias, what's born is a muskel. So es ist da maskel, es ist da the lichtigkeit bei mir, es ist da the metzias, and the muskel is when I have this lichtigkeit meeting a problem, so then there's the solution, and that's what we would call a svarim, a muskel. But the muskel is really not a thing. It's a byproduct of two markivim, the zach, which I'm studying, and I. Is that in the muskel gufa there's always going to be the cheshbon of the muskel, the problem, and then there's the eira seichel. Yeah, like in the Friedrich Rebbe sprachs almo, das ist der Nesa und der Menusse, the kelim and the metzias and the mohus. There's the Yetzias of the Svara, which is the Cheshbon, the Asbara, whichever system we're using, and then there's the idea, the Lichtigkeit, the Reichet of the Svara, which is the Nefesh, the Dereher that I have. That Dereher is I. It's just the way it's been applied in a certain direction. It's like, I've opened a window from this Eira Nefesh, which I have, this Lichtigkeit in Kop, and Seleicht Aziv in a certain place, in a certain problem. Kommt es, as a Svar is nicht keine Sache. It's not just I have a thing. VaYehi, I can't deliver it. For the same reason that the Rav can't give it over to the Talmud. That's the same reason that the Mechin doesn't deliver it to the Midas. And from them Gufa is Muchach also, Le'inyanenu, I don't have it. So it's not, there's no such thing as a Svar. There's Ich hab Lichtigkeit, the Richtigkeit, a Yashrus, a Klarkeit in Kop. I have problems. With this Lichtig, Nafshis Dike thing, I could apply to this place, and then there would be a Svara. But that Svara, the Eir Shebe Svara, the Eir of the Muskel, is still just Nefesh. VaYehi, I can't give it to you. You have to have a Nefesh to have it. Kumtais, that I never really connected to a thing. There's no such thing as a muscle I'm connecting to. The thing I never connected to. Kanal. I don't have a yachas to this. If the daimon stops existing, a part of me stopped being. If my chaver goes away, then it's I ripped out a part of my heart. There was a place in me where he was tefes makim. He had real estate. He was sheikhen by me. He stopped being, so there's a piece of me which was misyachas lazulas which stopped being. Masha'ein came when I have a yachas to a svara, so the mitzvah is what I'm learning. Al-Chatchila never cared about. And it had nothing to do with me. Or kanal, even if it wasn't true, the svara is nachal tzrichtig. Was it the svara allein? Let's dissect it. Let's separate it. The cheshbon of the svara, the mitzvah, that's not a part of the mitzvah. That's nothing to do with me, and I don't connect to that. And that I could deliver to you. The air of the seichel, that's take me, that's dovuk. That's connected to my nefesh. That is latzme. Umemele kommt es that I never really connected to anything gizulas outside of me. And that's taka why I don't care to apply this Eira Nefesh to a daemon. Because it's nicht a Sache, was vernimmt der Art bei mir. It's Eir. It's Gili Nefesh. Wherever it will be applied, it'll be applied. Maybe one pashat hamchasha for this is real seichel la achra asbara. There's nothing to say. What's the touch a good svara? Chagat kasha. It doesn't make sense. So a bad svara is the touch is that mezok a ganze pilpul and it's a whole biur. Why how to be miyashiv? A good svara is as a mechatchila mezok ze zwei dinim. As mechatchila I confuse two things, and once I look back at it, kushimi kara leisa. It's klar. So now there's no svara left. Because seichel is really shlila. Like we were discussing, it was last year, maybe it was 2 days ago. How does seichel work? Seichel is a chatchila nishkin zach. He's saying that it's nicht schwer. Se macht offen. Se macht lichtig. Einmal se macht lichtig, there's nothing left. I don't have a specific thing which I could grab, I could hold on to. Because all seichel did, it opened. It made that there's no problems. Why? Because if I have a klorkeit cup, and the way I address this issue is with this lichtigkeit, salachatchila, I don't see a problem. So maybe sometimes I had to come through Haravanya till I came to this place. Like it says, you have to have a Yegiya, and like we're discussing, it has to be a Shtem Kshachade, it has to be a whole process to get to this Klarkeit. But once I have this Klarkeit, the Taich is es nicht schwer. So there's no problem. Is Lesikum, man da gefragt, Lechure, Seichel is Sheiches la, Seichel is also Sheiches la Zulas, because I have a Yachas to Metzias, which I'm learning. Or I have, let's say, Edeler, I have a Yachas to a Muskel. So the teretz is, you don't have a Yachas to the Metzias, it's Ba'avdolah. You don't care about that. You don't connect to that. That's a tool, a way of me bringing out my Eira Nefesh. What's the Muskel? The Muskel is when this Metzias, on that I applied my Eira Seichel, in Memele is Arish gekommen, es ist doch kilo a Muskel, a Svara. Aber a Libedem is the Eir Shebeze, the Eira Nefesh, the Seichel Shebeze is I, and it's richtig to say, what is it? It's Dveikus. What's the touch of Dveikus? I'm dovuk to my Yetzim. What's the touch when a person wants to understand something? He's becoming dovuk to a thing, a krichtapes in Himmel to get a svara. He's closing his eyes and he's becoming more dovuk to his own etzim. He's allowing for the Kirch HaMaschel to be made in his seichel. That's the dveikus. So when we say over here la'atzme, we have touch of ve'emech nikron la'atzme, u'ba'avedu b'chinas ha'dveikus va'achtus. That's the touch of la'atzme. I'm dovuk in what? In la'atzme, getting closer to my etzem HaNefesh. As der Richtigkeit in Kopf soll scheinen, soll leichten, und I should be overtaken by this gili of etzem, and my yeshus shouldn't be in the way, my preconceived notions, my agbolas, my being square, my not allowing for the offenkeit should not get in the way. So it's bittel, it's dveikus, und memele, will ich sein richtig. Yeah, l'chore, that's enough to deal with that. And now let's get to the issue at hand. That we're going to deal with what's the eitzah for the Meitzer Agar. Now, Sedov is retzach bechlolus, and Sedov is retzach bepratius. Bechlolus retzach, that what's the eitzah to deal with Meitzer Agar is das. Das has a keyach to be mailed midis, meaning through the hiskashrus and the hakare and the haragoshe, the connection, durch them I'm mailed the mid. What's the taich? Das is really coming from a deeper place in nefesh. It's in Mavur, other places, das really comes from, das is mushrish and keser. Das comes from, it's an expression of etzem, of I. And that's why the way das works is that I connect. Once I have das, it steht, VaYehi Mitzrayim ki ani HaVaYehi. The way to deal with Mitzrayim is as das wird es durchbrechen. That's an Indian klali, which we're not going to discuss over here, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking to use das durchzubrechen, durchsparen. What we want to do over here is focus more on something specific. How guf? Das. How does that work? So obviously, it takes thinking, but that's not a solution. Thinking is part of the problem. We have meichin, but we have a meitzer agarim. I could know the truth, but it's not coming into mitzvahs. There's one place, El Arbos or Tafshin, which is actually said, Mamish, it's 80 years ago. It's when the Friedrich Rebbe came to America. B'chonishkin Tos, it was then, maybe it was even said in Lakewood. It was Pesach then in Lakewood. It was in America then. And Friedrich Rebbe, over there in the Maimer, says a Pashtazach. He says, the issue is in the gur, is in the throat. Why? Because it's not coming from the head, Milmaila Lamat. So let's use another thing in the garden as a solution. Always the solution has to be in the place of the problem. The throat is also used for the voice. The garden, like we say, Kabetz Hashem Miheincha is Migreincha. Migreincha is to use the voice to battle this. Oh, it doesn't touch so much, but there's other places where we say, Chaim heim lemitziim bapeh dafke. Mized memetzias kil me'erer hakavon. A person could learn something, but if he learns without a chayis, then it remains dry and remains dead. Masha'en ken mezoktas areis, and we push it with a voice that's me'erer amidis. Like Yismi Metzias. The same things which you understand, you say it using your voice, it comes down into midas. And the reason is because we're using the garden, which was the issue. So we're making movement keilu through the voice in the garden. So that helps the transition or the transmission from mechin to midas. So it was Rabbi Tenenbaum. He was a chazer. I think it was in Lubavitch. He was a chazer, the Frierdiker Rebbe. So he came into HaZe the Maimon. The Seder was with HaZe the Mamorim. So he was chazering a Maimon to the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Frierdiker Rebbe stopped him in the middle. He was in the middle of saying, "Was das is the Indian from Kovet Tato and Kovet Ilah." So he stopped him and he said, "Nicht as ich chazet man Maimon." He said, "Was das is the Indian from Kovet Ilah and Kovet Tato." He says, "When man chazet a Maimon, he said the same words, but it has to be with a chayish, with the niggin of the Maimon." So that's one pashut practical tool. As mezet as Chassidus is nicht peil, so one Eitze is pashut as the Chassidus davon Chaim heim lemitziim bapeh, as mezokt es aros, or me leint the Chassidus afon kol. So that's one way where it says in Chassidus is a Eitze for the Mitzrayim. Now it's interesting in Shvur Samachei, where he describe over there how you have to make a achon as the meich should be meled midas. He says one eitzah is negin, which is very interesting. We're making over here zushtal, which doesn't say beferish, but it sounds like we're going in the same direction. What's negina? So again, negina is using the voice. Negina and mizad metzias as a arbetakaze, as this meken haben a inyan, as a muskel, aber as me singt anigen, so me singt anigen bei verbringen, oder me singt anigen beim davenen, so the inyonim was me redt, or the inyonim was me tracht, they sink deeper into the emotions. It's a way to get to the minutes. Is l'chure, we're not building a bridge too far, it sounds like we're going in the same direction. Now maybe, and this is mamisha maybe, just to suggest an idea, what's take pshat? What does it mean that Negina has this eifin, this keach to build this bridge, to make this connection? Is behekten, was is the chiluk zwischen seichel and midas? So as we're discussing now and a few days ago, seichel is the emes and midas is I. Now we just meisef ha'emek, seichel is the bittul, and maybe it's the bittul to the keich hamaskil, but seichel is that it's not I. That's why seichel has a language. It's not about my experience. There's language. There's mitzis. There's a way to transmit seichel. Verkehrt, because seichel is wie mit ageret. Seichel is because it's la'atzmei, so it's ba'avdola from der zach. Is memele the zach could have language. I could describe it. That's why it's easy to be able to repeat the svara of one person to another. Masha'enkin hergish is I. Tavne de libe lekas v'inch. I can't express hergish. Words, I could describe it. I could use seichel to justify it, and that's usually when we describe hergish. I'm explaining, but I can't transmit hergish because hergish is me. Kann ich nicht übergeben hergish in Wörter, because words are by definition tools which lie outside of me. Words are words. It's chav beis asias. These asias can't carry me. They could carry a svara which has been applied to a daimim canal because it's a bazundere zach. What's negin? Negine is interessant. Mitzad echad, negine, could you transmit it? Sicher. Negine is something which I know a niggin, I could teach you the niggin. I could know a niggin that they sang 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Le'idach, niggin is seichel. Niggin is clearly hergish. Niggin is kol kulei hergish. What's the touch on niggin? A niggin is the touch, it's, I sing a niggin, I'm experiencing now the gaguim, the mriris, the simcha, whatever this person who made the niggin was feeling. So niggin is an interessante getinze. Niggin is kilo neymar, Yetzias, language, for hergish. So it's a novel idea. We're introducing over here a new kind of music. As hergish hat sprach. So it's kilo neymar, it's a seicheldike way of taking hergish. Just like seichel has sprach. Over here we're saying that negine is kilo, we could categorize a hergish. We could put it into notes. We could put it into a fal. You could have a schola on the sof. We made a language a way of transmitting hergish. So therefore, a nigin is keilu mitzad echad. It's keilu seichel because it has hergish. Leidach obviously it's inyani is hergish. It's keilu, it has a language. Leidach it has hergish. Kumteis, that is a mamutze. He has both. And therefore, a pseichel will reden mit midas. So I want to be me'erer the midas. I want to get the midas involved in the picture. Maybe the reason why negina works is because I have a handle, a way to turn on hergish. And the emphasis is in the Bochurim. You sing a nigin, it's mechayev a person. It puts a person in a certain place of hergish. If it doesn't work, sing again, sing another nigin. Eventually, the keach of a nigina is powerful. It turns on the hergish. So, kilo, I have a handle, a language to be able to reach hergish, which is the keach of nigin. Maybe some food for thought. If anybody doesn't like it, feel free to give negative feedback. More than happy. Okay. Is lesikum the Revaile we learned about what's the Meitzer Agorin and why there is this Meitzer Agorin and what's the problem with it, and now we're seeing a solution, and specifically Bechlolus is the Indian from that specifically the Gorin, which is the Kale. Or bepirte pratius, it's negine, and maybe we have a pshat in why negine works. Normasiv zayin, just one last nekud. In this union of Meitzer Agora, zwischen Yesh and Yesh is da ein beemtza, there's also another perspective, another way to look at it. But even Kloli Retman, that what's the point of the ein, of the Meitzer Agora? It's as a emtsoi in order to come to a yesh, in order to come to ali, a hecheresich, which is ba'evin kololi the way we always talk about yirida letzerech ali. Why is neshama yarda lamata in order that after she have ali? So kumte is that it's not just the taich that the yirida is going to bring aliyah. It's melachatchila letzerech aliyah. The kavona of the yirida is the aliyah that's going to be afterwards. What's the kavona of an isoyin? Is that after there should be megal in the keches ne'alomim, and which is going to be ali. Komte is that the yeride is not separate from the aliyah because that's the kavon. And al derech zeh, this word of Meitzer Agorin, bepashtus, why is the Mitzrayim? Why is the Meitzer Agorin? It's not just the taich that there is this issue and we have a solution. Mechatchila the Eibsh HaZe avegestelt, not just in kedusha. That there should be this issue also in Klippe. There should be an issue of Meitzer. And durch them, which I'm going to have das, I'm going to have to reach into a deeper place in myself to be able to be meled the midah, to force through, to penetrate the Gorin, kumteis, as the Yeride is bringing me to a place of Ali. But there are a few places where the Rebbe spoke about the inyan of Yeride L'Tzerech Aliyah. and about this inyan of Ein Be'emtza in a Tifreiv. Says, all we're saying till now is that the Matorah of the Yerida is Aliyah. And that Gufa obviously gives a new Havana in the Yerida. And the Yerida has new life, a new meaning because of its Matorah. But the Yerida itself is still a Shlav of Yerida. The Rebbe spoke as the Yerida Alein is also Aliyah. So this Gufa, there were different Asias in different times. But Hanegel in Yanenu, there was once, it's in the Sichas Chelek Chof, the Sicha for VaYishlach Yitzis Kislev. So the Rebbe said that HaZe, as when there's an aliyah from one elam to another elam, even if we're talking about the Nahar Dinur, which is l'chora the Yerida Shabineh, or there's a Sheva Yipul Tzadik V'Kam, that between one Madrega and another Madrega there's a Nefila. So the Rebbe said that Shlav of Nefila, that Ein Ba'emtza, is higher than the first Yesh. It's higher than the first elam. Meaning, what's higher? Asiyah, or the Nahar Dinur between Asiyah and Yetzirah, is the Nahar Dinur is higher. It's a Yerida, it's Ayin. So the Lashon was over here, it's in Hara 15, in the Sicha VaYishlach. It says, "Ba'mitzvah inyan gam nefila ena Yerida, ki im adrabe hakushye bo al-yedei shenischatshe etzli svar sichlis shel hayadam mikedem haynu chelek me'ali." Very interesting Lashon. It says, what's a taich? The avakasha. So let me say, there's a shlav when I understand pshat, then there's a psenishtem kshachade, and then there's I understand a new pshat. The shlav of the kasha is lower than the original limud, or it's higher. So even if I won't reach the third shlav, if I'm only going to stay stuck in the shlav of the kasha, what's it better? The shlav of the kasha is that it's already telling me on some level, I'm getting out of the lower derech halimud. It's a ha'ara from the new eifin of learning. It says when Reb Zeir is tzomeh tanise, he's a trot closer to Yerushalmi, even if he doesn't learn Yerushalmi. He's away from Bavli. What's this metanisa? At dereher as Yerushalmi is echer. When he's learning Bavli, he thinks this is great. When he's tzomeh tanisa dereher ter asedor pesmer. So the shlav of the kasha is a te'ima of the new beer. So the yerida is a part of the ali. Kilo neymar. What's it better? You have a pashta way of learning, or you have the way a London learns. The noch is the shlav in between, when the London has a kasha. He doesn't like the pashta pshat, but he doesn't like have a new pshat. What's it better? A pashta pshat or the alomdische kasha? The lomdische kasha is shentifer. He's not bacheshach. Elenish narish. Elenish pashat. He already has a team of more. So the Yerida is a beginning of the Ali. The Rebbe spoke then in this Sikha that there's a lotion of the Rebbe Rashab, Zayis Kesheketchenetze Metzi Shamnei Benegea the Alter Rebbe. The Rebbe Rashab said then it's schwer zu sagen, it's difficult to say such a lotion about the Meiser of the Alter Rebbe, but that's the Metzias. He said the Kesheketchenetze Metzi Shamnei, that when the Alter Rebbe was in Peterburg, it's already the beginning of the Ali. So the Pashta Pshat would be that it's just Letzerech Ali. The way the Rebbe is teaching is that being in Peterburg is higher than Far Peterburg. Noch Peterburg is sicher higher than Far Peterburg. But being in Peterburg is also higher because it's already Letzerech Ali. It's a beginning of the Ali. It's a Arois from Far Peterburg. It's beginning to it's coming from a derer as a dav zayin noch Peterburg. Lefize, the Rebbe teaches in Sheva Yipul Tzadik V'Kom in the Chinuch Kotten. Lefize is lenyonenu. What's the touch? The Meitzar Agorim, till now we're teaching all, but the Meitzar is we have to somehow overcome it, which is true. The point is to get to the Yesh L'Achar. But there is a value in the Ayin. ובזה גופן zwei Inyanim. Number one, it's HaZe, it's Yerida Letzerech Ali. It's going to bring us to I think. A zweite Wort is, as the Yerida Alein, this Ayin is a Shlav in the right direction. This Meitzar is that der Herr, as Meichen is nicht genug, und man darf haben mit this Meitzar, or like the Rebbe learned, and man darf haben na Meiser or Iker, this Meitzar has an Aliyah in it. The Nefil is a chelik of the Aliyah. Maybe for these unsere Meshuvene Zeiten that we're involved, that we're in now, there's a certain derher over here. So we're in a time which obviously is unprecedented and it's uncharted waters. We have no idea how this is going to end or when it's going to end. But it's certainly an Isoy. That's for sure. It says it's an Isoy and a Helm on the world, on Yidden and Klal Yisrael and the Midatera and Bepratis and Techetmim. As me vermacht in Chetmim. That's not a normal thing. It's not the way things should be bepashtus. But this has happened before. We know that there were schwere Zeiten. And the fact is that it's not just that afterwards is geworden the Vatzemayonis and Chatzik Adratachten and the Chassidus came to America and to the world as a result of the Redifus in Russia. While the schwere Zeiten were going on, so hat gebracht a Eimek bei Yidden, bei Chassidim, in der Herr in Chassidus, an application of Chassidus which there wasn't in the Tmimim in Lubavitch. The Tmimim who were surviving the schwere Zeiten, learning themselves, finding new depths in Mesiras Nefesh, new depths in the way Chassidus could be meaningful to their life, new depths in His Kashrus. That they had a newfound need, a newfound kesher with the Rebbe. But the Rebbe became something very real, it became like mamish. There was a derhez, the Rebbe detate. Be'en arech more than before. There was a tifkat in Avos Reim, which there wasn't before. As Melant in Yeshiva in the good Zeiten in Lubavitch, fine. It's all good and fine. When you have to go Mesiras Nefesh, to be able to save a friend, or to be able to nicht sagen a Wort wegen a Zweite, all the different Einkim in Avos Yisrael and Avos Reim of Chassidim caring for each other, came out in these schwere Zeiten. So there's a certain Eimek which comes with the Yerid. So there's no question that in this time also, even though it's clearly a time of Helm, there's a Yerida over here which has an Aliyah. It brings out the Starkheit of a Tomim. As a Bacher can sitzen in Stub, and he can't have him 3 times a day with a minyan, and he doesn't have his kavodik chavrusis in the same way. Ve'im kol zeh, he has a spine, he has things that he stands for, he uses his time properly, wächst. Chassidus und Davenen means something else. His Yiddishkeit has to, by force, has to be more pnimistic. There is no makif to live off. In a mela, the davening has to be a real davening. So there's a certain, in the Yerida, there is a certain aliyah. Mezet shein that there's I'm saying, just being bekesher with different Bochurim in different places, meher shein, how there's a certain gevura of keiches and alamim which are coming out, b'shas Yerida. We're not talking about the aliyah. As a klor, as a hachone, for the gressere gilui, which will come, the garden gichen, which should come after this, the real gilui of the gilui, the hey idea, and the full stuff from Venigla Kveda VaYehi, as it should be a real gilui after this tkuf of Yerida and Helm. Next time is going to be the last shiur on this Maimer on Vavarti Yutes and Betzim Yemezen on Hey, and we're going to be discussing in the inyan of Yetzias Mitzrayim Gufa two madreges, the difference between Laila and Yom, which is the Klolos Dike Drush, and it sheikhs to the Dibra Maschil, and it has a lot of Gishmak Inyanim which have a direct Poshet application in Aveda, Zere Gishmak Inyan, which Hashem next time.